What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I wanted to kind of just take a deep dive down my mental state for Star Wars. You know, a week ago, we talked about the Rey movie, and obviously we had Star Wars Celebration. I've watched videos here and there about just Star Wars in general. Now, I'm a diehard, okay? I've loved Star Wars growing up. I love this franchise so much, and the current state of this franchise makes me incredibly sad. So I am going to go on a rant. I'm going to kind of just let it out and see where it takes me. Really, Star Wars Celebration, like, I forget about the sad state of Star Wars quite often. And in a way, that's depressing all on its own. And in another way, maybe it's like a coping mechanism where it's like, okay, well, because I don't really think about it, maybe it's not even really happening, right? Maybe I'm just kind of making it up. Now, the truth is, I don't think I'm making it up. I do think it's real. So when Star Wars Celebration comes and you get all these announcements, you just get some of the stupidest, worst quotes you could possibly find from some of these people. It makes me sad, not even just where we're at, because we had the Disney trilogy. And, you know, I've said it before, but in case maybe a new viewer, you want to say, okay, well, where does Alex line up on this stuff? So I'll give you a quick recap. Episode 7, I actually really liked Episode 7. I still think I would like it now. I haven't watched it in probably 3-4 years, but last time I watched it, I really did like it. Hated The Last Jedi, hated The Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker, hated it for a different reason than I hated Last Jedi. So that kind of killed it. Mando, I kind of liked. Well, actually, I really liked season 1 and 2, let's say. Haven't watched season 3 yet. And the rest of the shows are just very spotty, right? Book of Boba Fett, I did actually think that was pretty bad. Obi-Wan, I thought was pretty bad. And then, you know, Bad Batch, I kind of like come in, come out. I really don't have anything to say about stuff like that. And now in terms of the future, it doesn't necessarily scare me. It doesn't necessarily worry me, because it actually hurts me in my soul to say, like, I've largely checked out. You know, I've talked about this with Marvel, and I have no qualms with saying, you know, people go through different journeys in their life and they have different kind of eras. And I'm very much into like video games and stuff, right? And I have been pretty much my whole life. But for like Marvel, I've checked out, and I really don't have anything strong to say one way or the other about like the current state of Marvel. I guess it's not very strong and not very good, but I'm just largely checked out. That definitely does not hurt me to say as much as Star Wars, because I want nothing more than to love these films and to love this TV show, or all these TV shows, because I love Star Wars to death. And Episode 7 was an experience. Going into Episode 8 was an experience. And then obviously leaving Episode 8 was also, I guess, a different kind of experience. But the future of these movies, the future television shows, no, like apps, like we are going down such a bad path. All of this, by the way, just being my opinion. You can have whatever opinion you want. But like The Acolyte, let's just take one, okay? So we have that, and we've had some of the worst quotes imaginable from some of the people asking what I believe the showrunner or director, whoever she is, asking her, like, what's your favorite Star Wars? And she, all of the Star Wars, that was her answer. So you had things like that. You have all these people, I guess, talking about what Star Wars means, like what the idea of Star Wars is, and some of them talking about, like, there is no light, there is no dark. Everybody's, like, kind of in the middle. Like, it's what you make of it. And like some of these people, and I like The Acolytes definitely is one of them. I think a lot of the cast, I think the showrunner, I think a lot of them have never seen a Star Wars film, probably outside of the Disney trilogy. They probably saw one of those, but I would wager a bet to say they've definitely not seen all the Star Wars movies, like all 6, and they definitely don't understand it. They definitely don't get it. So it actually hurts to think, and I do, like, I've talked about like gatekeeping before. I know that's such like a very bad word to some, and in some circumstances or some situations, but something as prized, something as possessive as which like the fans possess Star Wars. It's why Star Wars is a thing. When you enter that arena, okay, I think you should know about like the property. You should know it makes it tick. And losing George Lucas, not like passing, but like losing, you know, him selling it and passing it on to other people. Even like Dave Filoni, I really don't think has got the job done, you know, in the way that I thought he would. But a lot of these people, it's like you don't know Star Wars literally at all. So The Acolyte, the Rey stuff and all this movie, the director for the Rey movie, you know what I mean? Rey is not a good character, okay? Daisy Ridley, I do believe, is a good actress. And I think there's some elements to Rey that are good. But at the end of the day, she's an awful character because of the script, not because of herself. So yes, can she be redeemed in a new movie? I think she could. In this movie, I highly doubt it, because it just doesn't seem like you're doing anything that that fans would want. You're almost doubling down on the weaknesses that you created yourself, right? Like you made big mistakes, and then you can forget about those mistakes, move on, learn from them. Or you can say, well, let's go back to that well and drain it even further. Let's see how deep we can get into this issue. And basically how pissed off we can make people. Like how mad can we make people off of these issues that we create ourselves. And that's what a lot of this stuff is. But ultimately, I mean, like to put it the most simple, and I really do get the sense with the Rey movie, with a lot of these projects that were announced, with some of the television shows that are going to be coming, if you don't care about Star Wars, and yes, there has been interviews that have kind of said things or gone down a certain path, and then you watch the movie or watch the show and you're like, well, those people maybe were just kind of pushing some sort of mentality or agenda or whatever in the interviews. It didn't even come through with, the actual product. That definitely happens. It happens all the time. However, I think for this current example, what we've seen with Star Wars, there's nothing anybody can say to me. There's nothing that they can do except for actually the product itself to change my mind that I'm going with what they're saying. Like, I think they're letting out their, like, what the plan is. They are fully telling you, okay, here's the plan. Here's what we plan on doing. By the way, we don't like Star Wars. We don't care about Star Wars. We have no idea what Star Wars even is. And we're going to, present it to you. And this is happening, like, everywhere. You even have people in terms of, like, the gaming kind of community where they write comic books. You have a lot of those people that don't like Star Wars or wish it was something else and all this stuff. It's like, why are you in these mediums? I talk a lot about it with like game journalists. You so often, and I think you see this with Star Wars, you have people that don't want to do it. They're not fit for that field, and for some unknown reason they enter that arena anyway, or somebody gives them that job. Like, these people aren't qualified. They're not meant to do these things, and yet they do them anyway. Sometimes they don't even want to do them, and they do it anyway. And I think there's examples of that kind of all over the place. So it does make me sad because I kind of want it back. Like, I want good Star. Here's the thing. Okay, I have a 9-year-old daughter. She's getting older. I've kind of like trained her to like Star Wars. Like, I mentioned General Grievous a lot. He's my favorite character. So like I get her into that. I make her watch, the older, and she likes Star Wars, and she likes like Ahsoka as one of her favorite characters. But like, it pains me that I think when I was 9 or 10, Episode 3 came out. I'm pretty sure that's right in terms of age. So it hurts to like think these new people coming up, these new children, that Star Wars is everywhere. Star Wars is still big, and it is still like almost like a way of life, right? But these new waved people are coming up, and like the Acolytes, that's the show. Book of Boba Fett, these are the shows. The first time they see Obi-Wan is in the Obi-Wan show, and that's what you want to show them. That's what you want to say is Star Wars now. Rey is like your prototype character. Like, this is the one. This is what we're having people grow up on Star Wars. And then, I mean, that's disrespectful enough, right? That's actually almost torture. But then you have the people that kind of grew up on, well, you have people that were still are alive now that grew up with the original trilogy. You have the people that grew up with the prequels, which I didn't necessarily grow up with them. I think it was just a little bit too young, but I'm close enough. I think I'm in the range with Episode 3 at least, like, for sure. That very disrespectful to us, right? Because we grew up on it. I think we kind of expected or thought, we could keep getting quality. And yes, the prequels were definitely back and forth. I think there's a lot more respect for them now. But, you think maybe going into your 20s and 30s and 40s, maybe like they'll still be good Star Wars. Well, nope, that's not happening. It's been a long time since a really good, not even just like a good Star Wars product. I think Mando was like pretty darn good, but consistent and like an era. Like, can we say that there's been a consistently good Star Wars era? When's the last time you can say that? I guess you maybe would have to go back to the late 70s and early 80s for that, because the prequels were definitely all up and down. But the thing I always say with that is, like, the prequel, I love 3. Like, 3 was my favorite growing up because it's the only one of those 6 that I saw in theaters. So, like, it'll always hold a very special place in my heart. But also, like, years and years and years removed, I think those movies aged very well. I think they're very good. I think as 7, 8, 9, I think as Mando would age, I think as Boba Fett and Obi-Wan and Acolytes and Rey, like, when these things age, they are not going to age well, like, at all, because they weren't even And I guess you could again say the same thing for the prequels. They definitely were not good at the moment. 7, 8, 9, well, at least 8 and 9. I can't imagine 8 and 9 age well. So I don't know. I could talk about it forever. I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out there. In a sense, I don't care because I've largely checked out, but I want it to turn a corner. And I hate hearing the things that I hate hearing people that have no idea what Star Wars is, and most likely have never seen George Lucas's movies, and they are like running shows. They're the main cast of the show. Can you imagine that? It's almost a breath of fresh air. Maybe it's why I like Scream so much. When cast and the directors and the writers, when they come out and they talk so positively about the past and they know everything about it. It probably is why I respect Scream so much. The current group of Scream people, let's say, you can have a trivia of any of them on Scream fiction, right? On just like the lore of it. And they'll get a lot. They won't get everything. Everybody's human. There's some weak spots, but they'll get so much. I guarantee you, give me that Acolytes cast, give me the showrunner, give me Kathleen Kennedy, for God's sakes. Give me any of these people. Run them through even a basic Star Wars quiz, and let's see the scores they get. Let's do it. Seriously, somebody do it. They're not going to, because they'd honestly probably fail. And I'm talking about basic. Then start to ask them a little bit like deeper kind of lore questions. There's no way. They'd all flunk. And honestly, some of these people, Acolytes is the thing that just is engraved in my mind. I think they would get a horrible score on even just a general quiz on Star Wars. They'd flunk that so bad. And they're doing it. They are making Star Wars products. Now they're making new age Star Wars products, which is basically not Star Wars. That's the point. They don't need to know about the past. That's why they can fail these things, right? Because you don't need to know about 1 through 6. You don't need to know about what makes Star Wars because you're rewriting it. You're making it for modern day. You're changing it up and you're making Star Wars. Well, what would I do now? Now with George, the whole vision, let's make it what I would do it right now. And guess what? It's not very good. It's very low quality. It's very low effort, and people very much realize it. They realize it, right? All these canceled movies. You announce all these movies and you cancel them. How many of the things that they announced at Star Wars Celebration actually come out? Maybe half, right? I think the Rey movie happens for sure, and that's going to be both a joy and and a disaster, I guess, at the same time, because it's probably going to continue to prove to them, oh yeah, doubling down. Again, there's nothing against Daisy Ridley. I actually like her. Okay, I do. And I want her to be in more things besides Star Wars. It seems like people don't want her to be. I don't actually understand why, because I think she's a good actress. But it's going to just prove, I guess, to everybody that, nope, you still don't hear us. Or maybe you do hear us and you just choose to ignore us. And it's probably that one. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're all subscribed, bell icon turned on for more rants like this every so often. And I hope to see you all on the next one.